Joining me now live, Republican Senator Rand Paul, who serves on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, good morning.
Glad to be here.
Senator, you said that John Bolton is a, quote, disgruntled, angry man who was fired and just wants to make money on a book. Tell us what you really think.
Well, you have to take with a grain of salt anything someone says who has a mercantile reason to get people to listen to him. Look, a month ago, he didn't want to testify in the House. Why? Maybe his book wasn't finished. Now his book's finished, he wants to testify. So you should take with a grain of salt anything he wants to say. For his whole adult life, though, he's been protective of presidential executive authority and executive privilege not to divulge the secret conversations with employees.
Senator,
a year
real
ago,
quick on that point.
That would have been his opinion.
Real quick on that point. You've been consistent. You've been opposed to John Bolton because of his push for wars around the world. That's something you've been consistent about. Other Republican colleagues, real quick, have been very supportive. He's been a loyal Republican for many years. How can the White House and your Republican colleagues attack John Bolton?
Well, the thing is I think he has a reason, a monetary reason to lie. I also think that it goes against most of the things that in his adult life he has said he is for. What has he said he was for? He's always been for executive privilege and that conversations with the president are private. And now he's coming out and saying, oh, yeah, but the president told me this and this, and I'm eager to tell everyone as long as they buy my book for $29.99.
Sure. Senator, you've had your say. I hope you'll stick with us if you can. As you can see live now, the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, will get you to react.
By the president to continue freezing military assistance to Ukraine until it was announced until it announced the political investigations he was seeking. The details from Ambassador Bolton get to the very heart of the first article of impeachment. The same New York Times story places Mick Mulvaney at the center of this plot. He's a more important witness probably than Bolton. And the emails from Duffy and Blair, the two other witnesses we seek, are even more relevant as this information comes out. So I understand why Leader McConnell and President Trump wanted a very short, incredibly rushed trial, because the longer it goes on, the more likely that new evidence and more new evidence will come out that further implicates the president. Now just look at the other New York Times report last night about Ambassador Bolton's book. Several members of the administration had concerns about the president's dealings with autocrats, particularly Xi of China and Erdogan of Turkey. Did the president have financial interests at stake when he was talking to Erdogan, Orban, Xi, and others? Maybe his kids had some economic interest at stake. And did it impact our nation's foreign policy with those countries? Those questions are not the subject of the president's impeachment trial. But this report should be a warning sign to any Republican in the Senate. If you vote with the White House to suppress and cover up evidence, the odds are strong that the truth will eventually come out. In a few weeks or a few months, do my Republican colleagues want to pick up the paper and read that one of the witnesses they blocked had crucial information about the president's misconduct? That the documents they voted to hide turned out to shed real damning light on the truth? At this point, how can Senate Republicans not vote for the witnesses and documents we are seeking? The president flatly denies Ambassador Bolton's account. Maybe my Republican colleagues will grasp at the president's denial as a reason we don't need to hear from Bolton. But let me repeat. President Trump and Ambassador Bolton said diametrically opposed things. Only one of them is willing to testify under oath. Who do you believe? When only Bolton is willing to testify under oath and Trump isn't, who's right? Who do we think is right? Who do most Republicans think
All right, you've been
right?
listening to Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. Obviously, he's been out there just about every day during this trial, trying to get ahead of what we're going to be hearing from. He seemed to expand his attacks on the president there by talking about more about Bolton's book, specifically now going after the president's children. I believe we still have Republican Senator Rand Paul. Senator, I want to bring you in because when you hear Chuck Schumer saying this talk in the Bolton book about maybe the president was too friendly to China, Chuck Schumer saying maybe we need need to take a look at whether the president's children profited from that. What's your reaction to that and what it means for your push for Hunter Biden coming in as a witness?
You know, I'm offended and shocked that Schumer would be so scurrilous as to accuse the president and his children of making money illegally off of politics, when the only people we know who have actually made money off this have been Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So Hunter Biden makes $1 million a year. That's documented. But Schumer simply creates and makes up and says, oh, maybe the president's kids are making money. John Bolton is making money as we speak. He's probably already gotten a several $1 million advance for this book. He's making money by testifying against the president. The only people we know that have actually made money, Hunter Biden and now John Bolton. And they're not objective. John Bolton's not objective in any way now that he's been cashing $1 million checks. But to have Schumer come up and say out of the blue, maybe the president's kids are making money with no evidence at all, that's defamation, and they ought to sue him.
Senator, I hear the anger in your voice. You think this was a misstep for Senator Schumer to bring the president's children into this?
Well, it's a transference. We've been talking all along about the president asked that corruption be investigated in Ukraine, and the evidence is out there that Hunter Biden was getting $1 million while his dad was busy firing the prosecutor that was going after Hunter Biden's company. That's all in the record. There's nothing in the record about the president's kids. So Schumer just has created this whole thing out of whole cloth and said, oh, well, why don't we just go after the president's kids? We don't know yet whether or not the president's dealings with the Chinese president have something to do with the Trumps making money. He just made it up, completely made it up.
Senator,
that is defamation of character, and he ought to go to court and be sued for it.
And last hour, Sandra and I pressed Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen on the fact that you and other Republicans have been talking about Hunter Biden as a witness, and it could be material here because of the fact that there was testimony in the House Intelligence Committee by various officials like Mr. Kent that in 2015, there were Obama officials raising questions about whether there was a conflict of interest for Hunter Biden. What's your case for Hunter Biden coming in as a witness?
Well, the law that granted foreign aid to Ukraine said that you have to certify that they're doing better on corruption. Hunter Biden's accused of corruption, so is Joe Biden in Ukraine. So they're actually material, they're relevant. If the president was investigating corruption and the Bidens were corrupt, then he was doing his job. If there's no evidence that the Bidens were corrupt, not one scintilla, as the Democrats say, let's have a full airing of that. We began yesterday, and we had some interesting testimony yesterday that showed John Kerry's stepson was involved. They showed Hunter Biden involved, and they showed that they actually notified the State Department. John Kerry's son-in-law said, or stepson said, he was concerned and he wanted nothing to do with what Hunter Biden was doing.
Senator, real quick, are we headed for a long trial now with witnesses on both sides, yes or no?
I think there are 50 votes to have no witnesses, and there's one in the balance, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. Well, I'll be watching. Senator Rand Paul, appreciate you coming in.